Distinguished guests, just 7 months ago, this Commission put forward our Readiness 2030 plan to boost our military capabilities and defense industrial base. Because we all know that the defense of Europe is our responsibility. And we can feel the sense of urgency all across Europe. Putin's brutal invasion of Ukraine is now in its 4th year, and we know from experience that he is a predator, one that can only be kept in check by strong deterrence. So it is imperative that when it comes to our own defense posture, we are coordinated, we are precise, and we are fast. At the end of the summer, I toured the frontline member states, all of which have applied for loans under SAFE. And I saw repeatedly how Russia and others are ramping up pressure on Europe. Border guards are attacked with Molotov cocktails, shadow fleets stalk our seas, and Russian drones increasingly violate European airspace. On the front line, you can see the stark reality of why strengthening Europe's defense posture is so crucial. Now, 19 member states applied for SAFE. That is 150 billion euros in total for joint procurement to make our Europe stronger, to make our union safer. Member states are now working on their national plans so that we can maximize the benefit of the loans. And additionally, 16 countries have asked for budget flexibility to boost defense spending. So that's up to 800 billion euros for defense till 2030. With Readiness 2030, we are creating the economies of scale to accelerate production, to strengthen our own industrial base, and to enable investment in the Ukrainian defense industry. Because we all know that Ukraine must stay strong for our neighborhood to stay strong too. SAFE is just one part of our plan. Our defense omnibus will cut red tape to help companies increase efficiency and accelerate production. And the next budget proposes a 10-fold increase in funding for military mobility and a 5-fold increase in defense investment. Because a strong defense industry means a credible deterrence. This month, we will also present a defense readiness roadmap to the European Council, with milestones and targets to achieve full defense readiness by 2030, because we all know only what gets measured gets done. And we encourage member states to cooperate on flagship projects, like, for example, the Eastern Defense Shield, where we can create together a drone wall. With pan-European projects, we will further strengthen our defenses and underline our unity. The new roadmap will also set out how Europe can become a defense tech powerhouse. To be successful, we must be at the cutting edge of technology. We must build an ecosystem of industry, tech startups, academia and primes, and create a more agile, world-leading defense sector. And to be a powerhouse, we need to identify and nurture new European defense tech champions. And I'm delighted to see reports of 3 European startups valued at more than 1 billion euros. These are real European success stories on how to scale up. And our primes must invest more in startups to turn their innovative concepts into battle-ready products. Here, Ukraine can share vital first-hand knowledge from the battlefield that we can all benefit from. And we must ensure that our civilian and military tech sectors work together more closely. Because the same technology plays an important role in both sectors, whether you think of satellites or cloud computing, for example. Ladies and gentlemen, together we must continue to move forward with the urgency, consistency, and determination we have shown so far to defend our continent and to safeguard our future. Thank you.
So, Commissioner Kubilius, Madame von der Leyen is clear in her welcome address. The defense of Europe is our responsibility. The Russians are putting pressure on us. The European Commission put in place 7 months ago the Readiness Roadmap 2030, and you are in charge. I'm really honored to give you the floor.
Well, good morning to everybody, and dear all, it's really my greatest pleasure to be here today at this conference dedicated almost completely to defense industry. I have had many meetings with industry this year. Every meeting was an inspiration. Every meeting a lesson to better understand the challenges all of us were facing. And I learned there is a clear and very important truth in two well-known sayings. The first comes from ancient Rome. If you want peace, prepare for the war. The second from the experience of Second World War. Battles are won by generals, but wars are won by industries. Combine these two, and the conclusion is clear. The future of peace on the European continent depends exclusively on European defense industry. And I know very well that our industries will deliver. You will deliver peace for our kids and grandkids, and I would like to thank you in advance. And of course, thanks a lot for inviting me to speak at this very important conference before this very important audience and at this very important time. When I presented earlier in spring the white paper for defense readiness, I said that my priority would be implementation, implementation, implementation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time, delivery time. In the last 10 months, we have prepared the ground for delivery to achieve defense readiness by 2030. Why we need to be ready before 2030? Because Putin will be ready. We know where Russia is now and where they can be before 2030. Russia now, in 3 months' time, produces more ammunition than all NATO members, including the United States and all Europeans, in 1 year. So, 4 times more. At the June summit in The Hague, NATO set new capability targets for all member states, capabilities to defend ourselves. But it appears that we now have only 50% of the capabilities we need to have by 2030. 50%. If we do not radically change the situation, by 2030 our defenses will only be half ready. And half ready really means we will not be ready at all. Not ready to deter an Article 5 attack, and as this last week's show, also not ready to deter and defend against provocations below Article 5. Like the incursion of 20 drones 2 weeks ago over Poland. A 10,000 euro drone shot down with a €1 million missile, that's not sustainable. We are not ready to defend ourselves against drones. Drones changed the war in Ukraine starting from 2023, but we did not prepare ourselves for such a change. We needed a provocation on our soil to finally wake us up. Long-range drones launched from Russia can strike Brussels, and from container ships can target all coasts of Europe. That is why we proposed a European drone wall, European drone defense initiative, an anti-drone network to protect all Europe, and other defense flagship projects, including the Eastern Flank Watch, to strengthen the defense of the frontier region. We can build those defense projects together with Ukraine, using its battle-tested experience. Ukraine is our first line of defense, in a very literal way. No one wants peace more than Ukraine, but it's clear Putin does not want peace. Europe must be grateful to Ukraine, because every drone Ukraine shoots down will not threaten Europe. Ukraine's brave resistance gives Europe time to build defense readiness. And we must help Ukraine more than we have done so far, with the reparation loan and safe loans. But Ukraine is also ready to help us with their battle-tested experience, battle-tested military forces, battle-tested industry. Ukraine's drone forces destroy 80% of Russian targets in the air and on the ground. There are a lot we can learn from Ukraine. We need to build drone wall and eastern flank watch together with Ukraine and including Ukraine. We need to create joint ventures with Ukrainian new defense tech industries capable of building Flamingo cruise missiles and ready to produce ballistic missiles and submarine drones. That would be beneficial not only for Ukraine, but also very much for us Europeans. In the last 10 months, we have taken historic decisions for historic times. As Commission President have said, 80 billion euro extra for defense till 2030. 150 billion euro in safe loans for defense, backed by the EU budget. Historic decisions. 90 member states have asked for safe loans, a huge success. They asked for more money than is available. The money will reach governments during the first quarter of next year. I would say again, historic speed of decision-making and of delivery. Flexibility for defense on the Stability and Growth Pact, also historic, never been done. 16 member states have now activated the national escape clause of the Stability and Growth Pact to spend 1.5% extra on defense. On top of that, the new possibilities to spend unused cohesion and recovery funds on defense. The European Investment Bank opened up new investment into defense, and negotiations on EDIP are coming to an end, hopefully this week. And we proposed a 5 times bigger defense budget for the next multi-annual EU budget, so-called MFF, up to 131 billion euro for defense and space, again, historic. And at the NATO summit, member states pledged to spend 3.5% of GDP on defense, and perhaps you already know the word I choose here, again, historic decisions. So if member states, we need to understand what we are facing. If member states will spend an average 3% of GDP for defense, we can predict that for the 2028-2035 period, a total national defense spending will reach up to 4.2 trillion euros. That's 80 times more than will be spent on defense at the EU level. And we can call it a financial big bang, which we must now turn into a production big bang. So we need European defense industry to deliver this production big bang. And I know there are many defense industry people here today. We had a very good meeting earlier around the breakfast table. And we support you because you have a very important and very big job to do. The future and freedom of Europe depend on our defense industry. We will help you by slashing bureaucracy and cutting red tape. In some member states, at the moment, it can take industry 4 years just to get a permit to expand. That's no way to get defense readiness by 2030, because we cannot expect Putin to postpone his plans for aggression until we shall issue permits. In the Defense Simplification Omnibus, we propose instead a 2-month deadline for defense permits. And we need an European defense industry that can help us fight not only the wars of today, but also the wars of tomorrow. Thus, I will soon present our initiative on defense industry transformation. Not just to build a better tank or a better drone, but to build an European defense industry ecosystem driving defense innovation, linking innovators, industry and soldiers in the field for constant adaptation to military needs and learning from Ukraine. And from Ukraine's successful innovation ecosystem linked directly to the battlefield. Soon I will present also our initiative on military mobility. To get military equipment quickly to the borders we need to defend. Some member states now ask for 45 days advance notice for military cross-border movements. 45 days. I doubt Putin will give us 40 days notice if he decides to test Article 5. Different national and regional rules delay our military mobility. We must have one clear set of European rules. From another side, we have seen that a few drones can paralyze an airport. So we will propose measures to protect our ports, airports, bridges and railways. To summarize all I just said, we have taken unprecedented decisions, created new financial, legal, industrial and political opportunities for member states, opportunities to develop defense capabilities, to meet NATO capability targets, and to achieve defense readiness by 2030. Now we are at a decisive moment. the moment to move from opportunity to delivery, move from money big bang to production big bang. Delivery, that is concrete contracts, production, procurement, development of new weapons, permanent innovation. The delivery stage demands a different mindset and different policy instruments than the opportunity stage. To deliver defense readiness, we need a clear roadmap with clear plans, timetables, deliverables, and indicators on each capability, and a clear reporting and monitoring system. In a few days, the Commission will approve our roadmap for defense readiness, which we will present to the Council at the end of October, showing how we will achieve defense readiness by 2030, and every step, every milestone along the way. In the delivery phase defined by roadmap, there are three key questions. First, what to deliver? The basic answer: to meet NATO capability targets. Hundreds, thousands of new tanks, pieces of artillery, fighting vehicles, etc. EU institutions have the picture of aggregated demand, and that will be the basis for planning. Also, European-wide defense projects that will protect the whole Union and demand European action, as determined by the European Council, like the Air and Missile Defence Shield and Space Defence Shield, and the Eastern Flank Watch with the European Drone Wall. Second question, how to deliver? There are different challenges demanding different ways of delivery. First challenge, how to produce more legacy weapons, which we are producing now, how to expand and consolidate production and make procurement more effective. Second, how to develop and produce new systems, which we are not producing now, but we procure them from third countries, especially from the United States, like long-range precise striking capabilities. And third, how to innovate, to develop and produce modern weapons to match the evolving demands of modern warfare and building on Ukrainians' experience. To effectively deliver capabilities, it's not only essential to know aggregated demand, but it's also a must to evaluate and monitor existing and needed production capacities and challenges of supply chains, and to find a solution for those challenges. That will be an important part of the delivery process. And third question, how to deliver in the most effective way. Who does what in terms of different institutions? Effective delivery depends on a clear division of responsibilities. Member States will be in the lead. The Commission will facilitate, coordinate flagship projects, and implement EU defence industrial policy instruments. Monitoring and reporting of programs will be crucial for success of delivery. But until now, there have been only very few success stories when defence projects successfully delivered by several member states together. In stark contrast to outstandingly successful European space projects like Galileo or Copernicus, which were delivered as pan-European projects, delivered by common and coordinated actions of Commission as the EU institutions and member states. Compared to space, defence industry and policy is very much fragmented along national boundaries. As Draghi says in his report, that makes our defence industry less competitive globally, and that makes it more difficult to develop pan-European defence projects. We will only be able to deliver on defence readiness if we learn to act together as an European Union also in defence. By just spending more risks greater fragmentation of defence production. We must spend better and European. So we will incentivise joint procurement and joint development. And we will incentivise investment of national defence money into European defence production. That will be central to success. That is how we shall deliver. How we shall deliver our material defence readiness 2030. More production, more procurement, more financial resources, and more modernisation of defence. But it's not enough to have only material defence readiness. We must also have institutional defence readiness. Now the United States focuses more and more on the Indo-Pacific, and Europe needs to take responsibility for its own defence. As President von der Leyen has said, this must be Europe's independence moment. It's time to build a European defence union, a new security architecture for Europe to strengthen the European part of NATO, involving also Ukraine, which has unique battle-tested experience on the democratic side of the European continent. Also with the United Kingdom and Norway on board to make us much stronger. We need to build also our political defence readiness. It's no use having enough modern weapons if we do not have the political will to fight, to use those weapons to defend ourselves. Putin is using all possible means of hybrid warfare to diminish our political defence readiness. We need to learn to strengthen our political will to defend ourselves and deter hybrid provocations. And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, this Thursday will be a big day. Thursday is a D-Day, delivery day. On Thursday, the Commission will present our roadmap for defence readiness. Europe is moving from plan to production. Our measure of success is not profit, but peace. Peace is our bottom line. Deterring aggression, preventing war and provocations, preserving peace. And I call on you to help us make it happen. You are all leaders of business, of industry, of government, of diplomacy, national and European. But you are also mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, citizens of Europe. I do this job because I want my kids and grandkids to be safe. And because I don't want the children of Europe to suffer what the children of Ukraine have to suffer. And I know you want the same. Our policy is production. Our purpose is peace. Let's together make it happen. Thanks a lot.
So thank you, Commissioner, for this strong and supportive speech. Minister Francken, as Belgium Minister of Defence, you recently made a commitment to increase substantially the budget for defence in order to reach 2% of GDP, strengthening the preparedness and modernization of the Belgian armed forces. At the same time, you plan to invest and to support the Belgian and the European industry. I'm pleased to give you the floor. Meneer de Minister, het woord is aan u.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Kubilius, for an inspiring speech. You had so much elements. I'm always very critical, not always, but most of the time very critical for the European Commission. I think that the European Union is a wonderful project, and Belgium is one of the founding fathers, like we are, of NATO. But there's too much bureaucracy in European Commission. A lot of rules and regulations that are unnecessary for me. But first time I met Mr. Kubilius, I saw a very pragmatic man with a lot of experience, coming from the east, from the Baltics, the east of Europe, and knowing what Russia can do and the danger that comes from Moscow. And he's a very pragmatic man. Today he launched D-Day. I'm very happy, and I'll wait for D-Day on Thursday, Delivery Day, where we see the defense agileness of European Commission again, I hope. You can count on Belgium, you can count on me, you can count on my Prime Minister, because we really need to act, and act fast. So, Mr. Kubilius, all support. Ladies and gentlemen, as a Belgian Minister of Defence, I want to share my views on the importance of rapid technological development for European resilience and what we must do to foster it. But first, a sobering fact. Russia has placed its entire economy on a war footing. Old factories have been revived, new industrial facilities created. In Alabuga, Tatarstan, thousands of workers produce an improved version of the Iranian Shahed drone, the Geran 2. This year alone, that plant will deliver around 40,000 Geran 2s and 24,000 decoy drones. The Putin regime has mobilized the whole Russian economy for war. Its military-industrial complex mimics that of the Soviet Union. It is centralized, command-driven, and under full state control. At its apex sits Sergei Chemesov, head of Rostec, a massive state-owned conglomerate covering most of Russia's defense industries. He is not an industrialist, but an apparatchik, a product of the FSB, the Siloviki, the strong men as we know them. They took pretty much over all the Soviet Union, of all Russian Federation. When you hear about somebody, an entrepreneur, being died because of the low windows in Russia, it's because an FSB agent and a friend of Putin needs to take the place. That's a very interesting model. This model enables quick decisions and production at scale, but it is inefficient. Contracts follow political priorities rather than market logic. It allows not real accountability, nor space for independent innovation. It can produce volume, but not creativity. It copies, but does not innovate. It may appear formidable, yet it is brittle. It will always be one step behind. Dear guests, now look at Ukraine. Under constant bombardment, it has created a vibrant ecosystem of small bottom-up enterprises. Teams of engineers and IT specialists in underground garages are developing drones and electronic warfare tools. These startups thrive because they can operate in a country that embraces free entrepreneurship. Their strength lies in ingenuity and adaptability in Ukraine. Necessity has become the mother of innovation. The results are no less than spectacular. Ukrainian startups were the first to develop and mass-produce FPV drones for military use. They amaze the world with their naval drones, and they are pioneering in drone swarming technology, integrating AI for guidance and target recognition. These innovations were developed rapidly, with cost-efficient production in mind. They show the clear advantage of an open, decentralized industrial landscape over a rigid, state-run system. Ladies and gentlemen, now where does Europe stand? The EU defense industry consists of a few very important big corporate players. And when I see all the boarding, I think they're all pretty much here. Welcome. These are essential for producing complex weapon systems at scale. Europe can increase their potential if we manage to link this industrial base to the creativity of our countless SMEs and startups. That would allow us not only to replicate Ukraine's success, but even to surpass it. Many positive steps have already been taken, such as the creation of the European Defence Fund with its strong R&D focus. But several more is necessary. I identify four. Number one, we must overcome the hesitation in governments and universities toward funding dual-use research. In Belgium, an existing ban on public funding for such R&D has now been abolished. Governments now actively fund research into technologies with military applications. This is not warmongering. It is investing in peace, sovereignty, and security. Number two, the same hesitation persists in the financial sector. For years, well-intentioned ESG criteria discouraged banks, pension funds, and investors from financing defense and dual-use industries. That was naive and costly. If Europe wants to defend itself, we must free up investment capital for SMEs working on critical technologies. I am pleased that today's program includes a panel on this issue with Mr. De Groot of the European Investment Bank. Mr. De Groot, where are you? You're here somewhere? Not already? Not here? No. He's coming. He's a pretty inspiring man. Supporting such firms is not unethical. It is one of the most ethical investments Europeans can make in today's security environment. Number three, we need fast-track procurement channels to help new players turn prototypes into operational systems. Current procedures are too slow and risk-averse. Ukraine's success shows the power of rapid prototyping and deployments. Not every experiment will succeed, but the cost of caution is greater. Small, quick procurements with short evaluation cycles can balance innovation with accountability. Not every military project needs to be a multi-year mega contract. That's why I welcome the Defence Omnibus, Mr. Kubilius. And finally, number four, diversifying supply chains is vital. The large firms that dominate the market should be encouraged to subcontract components to SMEs across different member states. Governments must resist the temptation to keep production entirely domestic. The EU should champion cross-border participation, allowing SMEs to contribute without being buried under bureaucracy. This diversity strengthens resilience and reduces vulnerability in times of crisis. And I say this, of course, as a Belgian defense minister. Belgium is not the biggest country of Europe. We have a strong economy. We're a founding father, but we have a lot of smaller companies. The biggest companies are not from Belgium. But that's why I also say it. We can contribute, we can help, we can innovate, and we are very creative. So I hope that the big companies of Europe always keep that in mind and champion cross-border participation, with also under the influence and under the support of the European Commission. That's very important for my country. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not need to mimic Russia's war economy to be secure. Europe's strength lies in its openness, creativity, and entrepreneurial shift and spirit. By unlocking the potential of our innovators, empowering SMEs, freeing the flow of capital, and integrating dual-use startups into major supply chains, we will ensure that Europe stays ahead. Our advantage over the authoritarian states that challenge us will not come from matching shell for shell or drone for drone, but from something they cannot replicate: the creativity of free people in free societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Francken. It's great to hear that Europe can count on you. Monsieur Camille Grand, you are the Secretary General of Aerospace, Security and Defence Industry Association of Europe. After this ambitious political message, we are happy to listen to you. How can European industry quickly and effectively address these many challenges? The floor is yours.
Good morning, Commissioner Kubilius, Minister Francken, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is really a great honor and privilege to join such a high-level group of speakers and be a modest part in this series of opening speech after such great keynote speeches. Let me first thank the organizers for the kind and special invitation to this 5th European Defence and Security Summit, one of the prime events of the European debate. It's a pleasure to be back. It's also my first speech as Secretary General of ASD Europe, only after 6 weeks in the job. I hope I will survive this speech. And a very special pleasure to be back on the at the European Defence and Security Conference in this new capacity and see so many good friends and colleagues in the room. As the previous speakers have noted, we face a new era, which is marked by a new geopolitical paradigm and threat environment. We face the largest conflict in Europe since 1945 and the blurring of the differences between war, crisis and peace. It is clear that the primary responsibility of European security lies with Europe. European defence is undergoing an unprecedented transition from peacetime mode to war readiness. As illustrated by the conflict in Ukraine, we face the changing character of conflict. The role of new technologies probably qualifies the period as one of revolution in military affairs, combining profound tech changes with rapidly evolving doctrines and tactics. This all leads to a welcomed, new and heightened sense of urgency to reinforce Europe's defence and industrial capabilities. After decades of budget reductions and peace dividends, European defence budgets and markets are rapidly growing. This growth is nevertheless unevenly distributed across market segments and across the continent. We also need to note that a significant share of that demand is captured by non-European industry. So in this context, what are our objectives? What we aim for is for Europe to be war-ready. A war-ready European defence and technology industrial base is key. As Commissioner Kubilius just reminded us, in the modern world, battles are won by generals and wars by industry. A war-ready EDTIB must be able to provide European armed forces with all critical capabilities at pace and sustain them also in the event of a high-intensity conflict, attritional peer warfare. So let me stress, the EDTIB is a defence capability on its own. It is critical to our future and our security. This means that we need to first boost production capacity, moving in many domains to mass production. 2, mitigate supply chain dependencies and vulnerabilities, including for critical raw material inputs. Third, increase technological autonomy to enable Europeans to operate with less or limited US support. Critical enablers from that perspective are a priority. Fourth, make sure that Europe is tracking and working on the emergence of potentially disruptive new technologies, in particular where there are no major European players. Fifth, and this is just as important, adapt our mindsets, our regulatory frameworks, adapt our bureaucratic processes, and from that perspective, industry welcomes the defense omnibus that can help reduce red tape. The good news is that we've already achieved significant progress in the recent years, but challenges remain. So in order to meet those, we need to address all of them simultaneously. First of all, we need to manage a rapid demand growth. Our production capacities are still recovering from decades of downsizing and production at slow paces. We still face shortages of skilled workforce, and we need to make sure that we find the tools to train a workforce that is adapted to our demand. We need to address cost increases, supply chain bottlenecks, and dependencies on risky suppliers for critical material input. That ranges from microchips to critical raw material. We have to reduce cumbersome and fragmented regulatory framework, both at the national and the EU level. We need the tools to defragment a domestic first demand. We have to develop, finally, faster procurement cycles, which are partially due to a lack of visibility on customers' long-term plans and priorities. Second broad range of challenge, we need to innovate at pace. New and disruptive technologies are rapidly evolving on the battlefield. This is an issue not only of tech, but also of processes to be able to move on at a much faster pace. Second, we need to bring on board new market entrants, including from other sectors and geographies where possible. Third, there is third challenge, there is an element to reconfigure the customer relationship. Shift from a commercial just-in-time logic to a strategic just-in-case logic. From this perspective, world readiness and security of supply requires different modes of information and risk sharing. Industry is evolving, and we need to do this together. Fourth, we need to adjust to shifting geopolitics. The brilliant successes of the Ukrainian defense and technological industrial base have been mentioned already twice today. I think we need to learn from the Ukrainians, also work very closely with our Ukrainian friends in this domain. We also need to work closely with non-EU European partners, starting with the United Kingdom. Finally, we also need to recalibrate our links with like-minded allies, the US, Canada, and reduce vulnerabilities and develop, where possible, balanced and mutually fruitful cooperations. So where does that leave us? With the need to develop, and in conclusion, together the ways to pursue objectives and cope with all of these challenges at the same time. We are not in a situation where we have to pick and choose, where we can afford picking and choosing our priorities. We need to pursue all of them simultaneously. This will require unity of purpose, a shared approach, and an efficient governance. European armament and cooperation is needed and politically possible. First, because it already exists. There are a number of fantastic success stories in the domain, but we can do more to deliver together the critical capabilities and enablers we need, and in a more efficient manner. We also have to reflect on what are the role of the EU and its framework policies and instruments. The EU has emerged as a new and major player and partner for industry, and has showed a new level of leadership. To take the European Union to the next level, we need to work together and make sure that we have the best setup to do so. That means possibly increasing EU funding for defense to a level consistent with the sense of urgency expressed earlier. That's going to be at the heart of the MFF conversation. We need to focus on member states' capabilities, needs and priorities, and work on a governance model that ensures the best possible alignment between the various traditional and new players, the Member States, NATO, the European Commission, the European Defence Agency, multinational cooperation frameworks, to leverage the best output of each format and each actor. We need to support technological sovereignty and security of supply. That will make the European industry capable of responding to the needs of our armed forces across the board, and that also requires to define clearly the terms of a European preference that enables European defence readiness. Improving processes and governance, we have to make sure that delays cannot be blamed, are addressed, and they cannot be blamed on industry only. Mainstream defence industries across transversal EU policies and framework to ensure consistency of effort. I have no doubt that Commissioner Kubilius and the team at DG DEFIS are excellent partners, but we need to mainstream this across the board. We need to enhance partnerships with our closest partners. So let me close on a note of optimism after this long list this long to-do list. I have no doubt that a diverse and dynamic European defence industry can deliver its part for European security and address our requirements in the air, maritime, land, space and cyber domains. We have some of the best aerospace and defence companies, a thriving ecosystem of startups and laboratories, and I'm absolutely convinced that they can deliver for our security. I am sure that the European defence and technological industrial base can move faster, be bolder, and act together to leverage efficiencies the new influx of funding and the new range of initiatives. On this note of optimism, let me thank you very much, and I look forward to today's conversation.
So thank you to all of you for this encouraging welcome message, who introduced perfectly this full-day debate. So I'm pleased to leave the place now for the first debate session of our conferences, and I wish you, of course, fruitful debate. Thank you.